Hey everyone, welcome to We Know Reality TV, where we know Amazing Race Canada. It's RHAP. I don't know what we're calling ourselves. I'm terrible at branding. But it is time now for Canada's number one summertime adventure, and of course, we here are Canada's number two favorite summertime adventure, with a lot of qualifiers on it. We are Canada's number two favorite summertime adventure that is a podcast featuring Americans pretending to be Canadian. Actually, we're probably number one at that. But my name is Jessica Liese. Anyway, that is my very long-winded way of saying that. And of course, with me, as always, is Dan Heaton. And we're going to talk about Season 11, Episode 1 of Amazing Race Canada. Dan, are you ready for this?
I'm so excited about, Canada's favorite summertime adventure. I can't even say it right, Jess. I'm all thrown off now. I just hope we make Canada proud. Did you notice in the beginning, John said 600 challenges, and I bet you we have talked about 500 of them, 480. I don't know. A lot of challenges, Justin. I'm excited to talk about more.
Yeah, we've been at this for a very long time, Dan. We've been doing this for a decade now. I feel like if we do enough hours podcasting about Amazing Race Canada, maybe we can get like visas to go move to Canada. Canada, this is me like talking to the whole nation. Anytime you want me, anytime I can legally come up there and be part of you, I'm there. So right now, like, I'm just sort of an honorary Canadian or a hanger-on or something. But, you know, we love it. We love that we get this hour a week to pretend to be Canadian.
Yeah, this has happened a few times where, like, the world we are in is, not the greatest. And then they come on and everybody's smiling and they're all like, go Canada. And they're in, a stadium and they're like, yes. And I'm like, oh, I really miss this, Jess. This is great. Everyone's so happy. And I mean, they get a little upset here and there, but it's just fun. It's like we're back to it, Jess, and it's great.
Yeah. I mean, what is it called when you're patriotic about a country that is not your own country?
I don't know. I've spent a lot of time, though, thinking about various cities in Canada or towns and where you go. And we've done the geography and the maps. And I don't know. I think if I go to some of these places, when I go to some of these places in the future, I will know where to go. I'll be like, oh, that's where they did the face-off. And that's where they did that detour. And that, there's so many things.
Yeah, I mean, I do that with Real Amazing Race. Like anytime did I just call it Real Amazing? I'm sorry, Canada. It's the American exceptionalism. We're trying to get it out of our systems. I do that with American Amazing Race. I go places that I've seen on the show and I kind of know my way around. And I've actually been to Edmonton. So I was like 14 at the time, but I have been there. So this is very exciting to me. And I've been to Alberta a whole bunch of times. So in general, I'm very excited to be talking about the race this week. And I thought it was a strong start. We got a lot of drama. I feel like it is continuing the tradition of last year where we have some giant piece of drama to just like shove us into the Amazing Race Canada season.
Yeah, I mean, last season we had Michael and Tyson losing all their money and having to walk the leg versus taking a cab. That would not have worked this week, would not have worked in this episode. But, then we have a team losing their bags. And also, but in both cases, the team not eliminated. And, and this wasn't even close, really. I mean, obviously, it could affect them in the future. But yeah, what I really like about this, Jess, compared to, I feel like, and again, I don't want to keep referring to the U.S., but even in recent seasons, the U.S. kind of is like, they got a gazillion teams, but they still kind of slow roll it. They've always been like, we're going to spend 30 minutes introducing the teams. Then we're going to do one task, and then we're going to drive somewhere, and then we're done. Here, it's like, we're going to make you do two things before you even leave the stadium. And then you're going to do something else and something else. And a detour in the first, they introduced all the teams just in 9 minutes. 9 minutes, Jess. That's crazy.
And do you feel like you don't know them yet? Because I feel like I know them exactly as well as I do at the beginning of any other iteration of Amazing Race.
The editing is great. They edit the premieres really well because I usually don't love the premieres. But here, I mean, it's not always like, sometimes the tasks go by really fast and we'll get to that. And other times they're good. It's not that it's the hardest task or the most memorable, but I feel like you jump right in, you get to meet everybody. The editors are always great, but I feel like the premiere is one of their biggest challenges and they did great. It was fun. It moved so quickly. I was like, wow, we're done. And they did like 5 things.
Yeah, it's just like boom, boom, boom. We're just gonna knock out a bunch of stuff, and it reminds me why we love this show so much. Like why this is such a great edition of Amazing Race, because they really don't worry about overwhelming us. They assume we can hang, and we usually can.
Yeah, some tasks I'm like, I don't even understand how the fencing worked. I don't even get it. But
Well,
it doesn't really
put
matter.
a pin in that because I have some. I spoke to an expert for this.
Okay, good, because I was really confused. But I don't mean to jump ahead. But the thing about it is, John gets up there and everybody's pumped and they're at the starting line. And then it's like, they don't. Also, another thing that's different, obviously, is they're going to spend the time in Canada, as we now really know they're going to spend the time in Canada as later on. But that they don't have to worry about driving to the airport and flying somewhere. They're in Edmonton. Let's do stuff. Let's do a few things. It's cool.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that we're gonna get to know the starting system, which I think you can do because it's Canada. Because we're already in Canada. We're starting in Canada. We're staying in Canada. U.S. Amazing Race. It's like here we are in L.A. at some random football stadium at some college campus that doesn't matter anymore. Everybody pick up your bags and go to whatever country we're starting in.
Japan, whatever. Yeah.
Fly to Japan, fly to Indonesia, fly to Senegal, wherever we're going. Who cares where we're starting? It's all about the journey. But here it's like we're already in somewhere. Let's make a day of it. And I thought they really effectively used the stadium. I mean, this is even a rehash of last season, honestly. The find the thing in the seats. That's a little bit of a rehash, but it's effective. And then the rappelling is something that's very new and different. And of course, you always have to kick off a good Amazing Race season with a good adrenaline task. And I thought that was well done as well.
Yeah, and I like too that we didn't spend 20 minutes of everybody going woo, woo. Like we didn't even see a lot of people rappel. Like a lot of people, it was just like their partner went, and they mainly focused on the people that were scared. I mean, I know I'm jumping ahead of the people finding the clues, which it was fairly hard. This wasn't a case like sometimes where you put all the clues in one spot and then everybody comes up and says, oh, whatever this person found, Brendan found it or whatever, and everyone else finds it. They were individual, which really stunk for the last few teams, because then you're finding not literally a needle in a haystack, Dimitri, not literally, but you are finding a needle in a haystack
figuratively.
Task. Yes, figuratively task. He gave it a shot.
Yeah, what I didn't understand, Dan, was did everybody get their own like little blocked off section to find it, or did they have the entire run of the stadium? Because it looked to me like they were dividing and conquering in like a pretty small closed off area. I don't know how long they were there.
That makes more sense, because I was wondering if they had the whole stadium and they just hit 11 clues in the whole stadium. I was like, that would be, this whole leg took place over the course of a single day, it seemed to be, and they drove a good hour and a half, like they said. So they had to make it where it wouldn't take forever. So you're probably right. They probably had a certain section. Either the teams were, like they said, okay, you're going to do this side or something, and also it'd be kind of hard to follow all the teams throughout all the stadium maybe. And this is easier. You can just set up a limited number of cameras in that way.
Right. It's like a production thing, but this is also one of those things where I feel like I want to get out in front of this and like give you some information that is deliberately wrong in order to bait people that would know the answer into coming into my DMs and correcting me. So my social handles are right here across the bottom. Please tell me where I'm wrong and give me the correct information, because now I really want to know.
Yes. Yeah. That is what we do. We thrive on giving out incorrect information so that people can come in and be like, give us lots of info. And then we could sound really smart 3 weeks from now. And everybody's like, remember that task from 3 weeks ago? And they're like, Dan, that was 20 tasks ago. It's like, I don't care. We're going to tell you about it now.
Yeah. Now we have the right answer. A little corrections corner.
I don't know how much do we need to get into the placement, because really I feel like it didn't matter that much for most teams at least through up to the detour. It was mainly when they had to drive is when it kind of got more challenging. But these first two, it was important, I guess, who was first and last, but not really.
Well, we switched the order up so many times over the course of this. Like there were teams that I thought were in big trouble that ended up doing really, really well. And then teams that I thought were fine, it's like all of a sudden they're at the back. And then it switched up so many times. And that, of course, is a sign of a good Amazing Race leg, is if you have the opportunity to do that. So, yeah, I don't think it really ultimately matters who left in what order, because so much else happened. And which I think there is something that they have done this season. I don't know if you must have caught this, Dan, because this is the coolest thing. And now I want every Amazing Race to do this. If they jumped in placement from the last time we saw them, you get a little up arrow or a little down arrow if they dropped. And it's perfect. Why have we not been? This has got to be like the 60th season of Amazing Race that I've watched Lifetime. This is the first time I've ever seen it done.
I thought it was great. We had our Big Brother Canada team that were last because they couldn't find the clue, and then they moved forward, and then it was like changed, and they were like 7 or something, and I was like, wait, did that just happen? Did I just see that? And then it happened like 3 or 4 other times, and they didn't use it every time a team moved, because that would have been like, okay, you got it. It's like when the US was doing all the split screens all the time, and it was their new toy, but they did it enough where I was like, I enjoy that. It shows, because a lot of times what we saw too is teams were driving, their Chevy, whatever Chevy of the week that they were driving. And basically there were times when teams would be like last, and then they'd show to the next test. And I'm like, how is that team 5th all of a sudden? And so it's like, wait, to look at my notes. Yeah. And that helps, because the big jumps up and down, teams getting lost make a big difference when the tasks are, the first few were not that hard.
Yeah. I think Amazing Race US has done a thing where like they will show a team passing another team, and then like in real time, the Chiron will change from like 3rd place to 2nd place, which is just kind of snarky and beautiful. But this, I liked the way they deployed this to kind of fast forward through a lot of mixed up placements, and then we don't have to worry about it. We know, where they were and where they are, and I like it. I hope they keep doing it.
Yeah, it's great for podcasting too, because then I can just write it down and it's all good, and it's just, thanks guys, you're really helping us out here. I appreciate it as we go through this race, especially when there's fewer teams. It'll be even easier. But there was a lot of jumping around, and not just when teams couldn't count the number of seconds later. There were a lot of points, where a team got lost, or they chose a different detour or whatever. Even the teams would find their clue and go up to the rappelling, and it was a long run, and some teams would jump way ahead there too. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, like we see a team find their clue first, and then all of a sudden they're not the first ones going down. Like we have Jesse and Jonathan find their first clue, but then all of a sudden Sam and Brendan are in first place.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. I mean, part of that is just the quick editing, because it's like they don't feel the need, because they're doing so much. They don't have to show every single time a team makes a wrong turn, or a team, maybe they said to go to a certain section, they ran the wrong way or whatever. They're just like, let's move on. They trust us to catch up, and usually we can. And I appreciate that, especially when you're talking about not a 90-minute show. It's an hour after commercials. It's like 45 minutes. So we got to move quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's not waste any time, which, take notes, Amazing Race US, because you're showing fewer things in 50% more time, and you don't have to. You can move it along here. So I thought this was a strong start. And then I think we can skip ahead. I think we should go straight to the detour here, because this is great. I like having a detour in the first leg. We don't need to just have like a roadblock and like one spicy task. We get the on the fence or behind the wheel. And I thought it was impossible to tell if any of this was easy or hard, because everybody just kind of made it look easy. Like objectively, I don't know which one was the easier.
Yeah, from watching the show, it seemed like, this is me personally, Jess, because on the wheel, you could make it as easy as possible, and I would find a way to mess it up. I think I could swing a sword. Like the way they were doing it, especially you saw, some of them where it was like Blair, who's just like, swinging his sword around and just like, doing that. Or, Louis had a similar thing where it was just like, rah, do it, but it's some of the people were trying to be a little more defined, but really it's hard to tell again, because I think, oh, well, the fencing was so much faster and most teams did it. We didn't see much of the wheel, but some of the teams that did the wheel, the two Rebeccas, and Jesse and Jonathan, who two of the teams that were near the top. So maybe that was easy too. It's just they spent a total of maybe like 6 minutes on the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was curious about the fencing. So I brought in a fencing expert. Actually, all right. Full transparency, I'm married to a guy that fenced in high school. And that is my fencing expert. But I made him watch. He loves it when I make him watch 5 minutes of Amazing Race. And so I showed it to him, and he said, actually, everybody appeared to have been pretty well trained on what they were supposed to do. He said even Blair looked like he was doing a pretty good job. And that he didn't think that he thought that the task was probably, there was a lot more learning associated with it than we saw, because everybody was following safety protocols and they were following the rules and doing it. They were standing a little closer than they should have, but other than that, it was very above board in the fencing department. So that's my input from the fencing expert. And I did pottery in high school, but not competitively. And that also, I think putting a blindfold on somebody I think it leveled the playing field. To me, that would have been the far easier task, even with the blindfold, but I appreciated that they kind of nerfed it. There was the first task judge at that pottery thing was fantastic. Like, she was giving like delicious dish from the SNL skit. It's like trying to like gas everybody up in this very neutral, very polite tone. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, just like it wasn't just like a lot of times when you see it, they're just kind of like, they're being serious. This is a serious show, but then they're that's it. There's nothing. You barely remember them. So that was a lot of fun. I do want to get back to your fencing thing though, because that's the thing. The way it looked on the show was like they basically, I know it's not called a sword, but I'm going to say sword, but they handed them basically and just said, here, do it. And they were like, okay, I'll go do it. And they just went and, and then they were done. But you're right that because a lot of these types of tasks, what we'll see a lot of the time spent with the practicing. And I think the show probably realized like, yeah, that's kind of boring. It's important for the racers, but maybe not as interesting as some of the things further down the road that really affected who got eliminated. Where here, it seemed like most teams probably practiced and finished in a similar time, even if it was much longer than the 2 minutes it looked like. It probably was 30 minutes or something. I mean, I don't know. It probably was much longer.
I mean, that's been, I think like my sense of it is that a typical Amazing Race task will take you somewhere from 30 minutes to an hour. And this one didn't trip anybody up in an amusing way, so we don't really need to see it. We got a little bit more of the pottery because it did trip people up in an interesting way. When it was not where I thought they were going with it either. When they said one of them has to be blindfolded and one of them has to give instruction, I thought, are we getting a ghost challenge?
Did you like John though? He was just like, he gets blindfolded. He's like, oh dear. I can't even do it. That's like a terrible impression of John. But that was our first, John kind of being weirdly dorky moment of the season. So I'm sure we'll have plenty more, but he seemed to think that was going to be super hard, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the two of them. We're going to get into it when we go team by team, but they're giving Carson and Jack energy. It's a similar dynamic and similar level of like dorky, I feel. And I think that bodes well for them.
Yeah. I think the weird thing is like, I look at a lot of these teams and a lot of them, I feel like kind of pop off the screen pretty, even, have the fencing moment where Louis was like, rah. And then you have the other team like Lacey and Celia are just like, well, that's one approach we can take. I don't think we're going to take that one. There were a lot of moments like that. And I'm not saying this, every team is not like at 11 because, we can't, we've got Brendan, but without Connor, he seems a little less at 11. But, that type of team, we have some of that, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of teams that we won't jump ahead too much, but that have a chance. There are a couple that don't. One's gone, so that's easier. But it's just
well, that team was here at 11, so
yeah, they were at 11, and then by the end we're at 0.
Yeah.
But
well, I'm waiting for Dan's favorite type of team, which is the team that comes in at a 3 and is just hilarious because they are at a 3 all the time.
We'll wait. I think I have a candidate for that one. I don't think it's going to be like, Joel from the one season, the dad, but or Lowell or some, that team. Yeah. But we got a few options. But I don't mean to sidetrack us here because I guess we did skip the part that happened that probably would just torpedo the podcast. So, I don't know if we want to talk about it yet.
I think we need to wait.
Because that happened before this. Mm-hmm. But I think if we do, we'll never get back to what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a significant portion of the podcast. Also, if we start talking about it now, we don't keep the listeners hanging on our every word until we get there.
That is true.
I don't know why I'm breaking the fourth wall with the podcast constantly today.
Please teach more.
I've had 6 weeks off from podcasting. I'm a little bit out of practice, so we're loosey goosey. We're getting into it. All right, so we go to the Red Deer. We are 150 kilometers away from Edmonton at this point, and we are at the Canyon Coaster, which is an alpine slide type outdoor roller coaster situation. And my frame of reference for this type of course is this amusement park that's kind of infamous over here in my neck of the woods. Out in New Jersey, we got this place called Action Park. And anybody that grew up in this area knows about this place because somebody got gravely wounded at this park every summer. And one of the most dangerous things at Action Park was the alpine slide, because sometimes you'd get a slide that went a million miles an hour, and sometimes you get a slide that just sat there until somebody ran into you from behind. This one seemed a little better maintained. It seemed like everybody kind of went about the same speed, but the added challenge here was having to count out how many seconds. And I gotta give it to Ika and Dimitri because this was brilliant on their part. Like going back and looking at a watch and getting the cadence and then getting on the slide. That was a game-changing moment.
Yeah, and when they did it, I laughed because I was like, what are they doing? They're going to look and figure out the time. And then it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because, I think about when I was a kid, we would play touch football. And you would hike the ball, and then the person who was going to run at the quarterback would count to 10 Mississippis. And that's like my only frame of reference for people counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, all that. And that is what a lot of teams did. They were doing something, or 1,000, 2 1,000. And some of them worked well. Some of them not so much. But just the idea of getting your cadence, and you saw right when they did that, they walked back, and he was like really, really sticking on it. And I have to say, from the way they started today, I wouldn't have guessed that they would be the team that would kind of, I wouldn't say break the challenge, but kind of figure it out, because some of the teams were pretty on top of it. But 2 seconds, Jess, is really tight.
Yeah, that is shockingly tight. I think there's a lot of outcry about the Desjardins assist here. It's so dumb. Get rid of it. It's an affront to the Amazing Race. It's worse. It's worse than sticking a random express pass in somebody's clue envelope for no reason. If you want to have an assist, like, give somebody something extra to do. You're not afraid of extra tasks, Amazing Race Canada. Clearly, we don't care how many tasks we cram into an episode. Like, just have somebody do something, like even tack it on. Like, okay, you have to make the pot in the detour, and the pot has to go up over 3 inches. If you make it go up over 4 inches, you get the assist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after we complained about it all last season, I really thought that, I don't overestimate our importance, but I really thought other people complained too. And John comes in and says, this is a winnable pass. I'm like, no, John, no. You're not winning it. You finish 7th and you get to the box 7th. Hey, good for the Rebeccas, but you get 7th. That doesn't mean you won anything. That just means you beat 4 other teams. That's not winning.
Insofar as you win a raffle or you win a door prize, maybe.
I mean, he said they were lucky at one point, the lucky team. But again, he keeps calling it a winnable pass. And it's boring TV. It's not exciting to anyone except for the people at Desjardins. And even then, I don't think they're getting the best out of their money.
It might be exciting for the people that get the assist.
Oh, yeah, the Rebecca's thrilled. And they still missed it at first, but it definitely helped them eventually, I think.
You know, I watched this on a quasi-legal site because I didn't feel like getting out my laptop that's got the VPN on it. And I think I missed an opportunity here because last year I watched all the commercials and I watched all the Desjardins ads a million times a piece. And I kind of missed it. So next week I'm definitely going to watch it with the ads so that I can comment on, like, do we have new ads?
We have new ads. I watched them all.
Oh, how are they?
Well, get ready to watch the same ad for Virgin Atlantic and how you can win a trip to London every time. I saw it 6 times, and then I also watched the episode twice, so I saw it a lot of times. But there's a few Desjardins ones. John appears very awkwardly in one of them. So, there's Expedia, there's the usual. But yeah, Desjardins is some, but it doesn't dominate like it did last year. And no Marshalls either. So, or winners. So I feel like we're missing out this year. But a lot of Virgin Atlantic. That's what, at least this week. I'm not sure. I don't think we can win the trip, so I'm not that interested.
Yeah. I'm disappointed that nobody's won any Marshalls gift cards yet.
They're not a sponsor this year. It's like we got Fuse Tea. I don't know when that's going to come into play, but we still got the others. We got Boost, we got Expedia. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Smurfs movie is going to come up in the future, but we'll get to that.
Oh God, Smurf Challenge.
Yeah, because Paramount is sponsoring, and I hear the Smurfs movie is what we're getting, but we'll see. Are they going to get blue paint? I don't know.
There's so much you can do with a Smurf Challenge. Oh, man.
And unconfirmed, I will say. I saw it in a news article from a reliable Canadian publication. So it wasn't just on Wikipedia, but we'll see. If it doesn't happen, and it's like, I don't even know what other Paramount movies since Mission Impossible already came out. If it's something else, I'm sorry.
I guess, the thrill is in finding out. It's like we win that because it randomly comes to us.
Yes. It's a winnable pass that we get to watch on our screen while doing nothing. I don't know, but
hey, I take notes. I'm not doing nothing. I'm taking this. I take this very seriously, Dan.
Oh, I understand. I take notes like I'm like studying for an final exam here. I was like reading my notes again. I'm like, Dan, you don't need to do this, but I do, because it's you guys, the listeners and viewers, that I do need to do this. At least I think I do.
Yeah, well, you need to do it, and you also need to get a bunch of stuff deliberately wrong so that people can correct us.
Yes, that's the goal. Well, I'm sure we've gotten a few things wrong already. I probably got the Smurfs thing wrong, but we are right about that.
You didn't.
We are right about the Desjardins assist. It is
terrible,
stupid, and we are correct forever.
Yep. Our logic is unassailable on this one point.
Yeah.
If nothing else, we have that. All right, country line dancing. Who can keep it between the lines? I liked that we pulled this roadblock clue before we even got there. Like you weren't even in the car yet when you opened the clue. I thought that was great. There has been sometimes, they tell you to go somewhere and then get the clue box, and you're at like the bungee jump, and I wonder what this is gonna be. I don't know. So I appreciated that you didn't really know what it was going to be until you ripped the clue open. This was a bit of a tepid rehash of season 1. And they were even in Alberta at the time when they did country line dancing before. I thought the stock music was a little bit more grating than it was in season 1. But at least it wasn't the same song with lyrics over and over and over.
Yeah, or we didn't get any. I kind of like when they do the same song with lyrics because then it just gets in my head forever. And then they play in the end credits or whatever. So we're assuming they get better music than this, right? This is
I
just
think
for
so.
us. They don't want to pay the royalties or something, so they get better stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to say it. Dance tasks. I've been known to enjoy dance tasks in the past. This wasn't my favorite, but it was fine. I like it when people are pumped up. It was crazy though. Again, you looked at some of the number of attempts some of the people had, and they were pumped. And it was like attempt number 8, attempt number 14, nobody. Well, there was one exception. Which I gotta say, every once in a while you get the team that has the task that is built for them, a team that I like quite a bit. Lacey, who started her own dance company at 16 in Prince Edward Island and is now the largest, and of course gets it on one try. No 5-hole, Jess.
Yeah, the only thing that could have been better is if they'd gotten an Anne of Green Gables cosplay challenge.
That's how they made all their money when they were kids.
That's there. They got their seed money to start their dance studio
at 16.
That's crazy.
Man, what was I doing at that point? I worked at the local zoo. Not the same thing, but yeah, I thought this was fine. I don't know. It did play a big role because I should mention that Grace and Joe really struggled with the time. With it was not a roadblock. I thought it was at first, the route info about the canyon coaster, but basically they fell behind. But then they were at Grace, who most of the time when you have someone who's an actress, like for example, we've had winners that have been recent seasons that were Catherine and Craig, very good at dance tasks. Grace starred in The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio, had never danced before like this. Probably has danced in her life, but never danced like this, Jess. So that was a surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought she did actually fairly well considering everything. And then you had some of that really frustrating Amazing Race thing where there's like one particular thing. You keep doing everything perfectly except for the one particular thing. You had poor Marie who kept missing that one specific hat move and had to do the task 14 times. That's always fun TV, but they didn't, we didn't sit on it for an hour like we would have in the US.
They didn't play that. They played the record scratch, but not my least favorite Amazing Race US audio cue. The one that you play like 100 times. Yeah. That didn't know where. I think.
Well, I heard it. They did
it once, but once okay.
Somebody had to screw up pretty big to earn that sound. I believe that was played in conjunction with the leaving of the bags.
Yeah, that's actually totally legit. Actually, they should bring out all the music, the Dandrew music, everything for the bags. But for this, the record scratch, I guess, and then you always cut to a person going, ooh, when they mess up.
The local,
But I thought this was fine. It didn't. I don't know. It looked like it did make a difference because Aditi was not able to do it as well, and Grace did it pretty quickly, which allowed them to pass them. I don't think it was super close, but it was fun to have the 3 teams at least at the final task with some tension. I thought Maria would get it, but some tension about who would go home.
Yeah. It felt like it was not written on the wall the entire time. Yeah, but I will say, if you want that sound effect and you use that sound effect for something that big, you have neutralized every other use of it for the rest of the episode, which is why we only got it once.
Yeah, then next week we'll hear it 12 times. Just wait. Now we got to track. I'm not going to count how many times really, but it is good to hear some different sound effects and different music. And I wondered because John said, I've gotten so trained by will be eliminated by the US, but maybe eliminated. I thought maybe they would do it, but I did feel like, unfortunately, our last place team, Michelle and Aditi, kind of seemed like they were getting eliminated the whole leg, even when it was early on and they were lost. And they pulled up to that guy and they asked for directions. And he said, there's I didn't totally even understand his response, like a pauper's field or something. And they were really confused.
Yeah, because they're saying that they need to go to the. I did write this down because I thought it was hilarious. What they said was, Yeah, what the cousin said was, "Where's the Potter's Guild?" And the guy giving directions heard Pauper's Field, which is where you bury people that can't afford to have their own funerals.
And of course, I'm over here laughing while you say it. I'm like, oh, that's so funny.
It's dark.
Yeah,
it's dark, man. Like, I don't want to see the Amazing Race task about the Pauper's Field.
No,
the
that
Potter's
would be,
Field is it's also what we call it. So yeah,
yeah, but yeah, that was, so they just seemed to have it where and also that was where Michelle said that she gets lost going for walks. And I was like, yeah, if we do a draft, I don't know about this one, but
I think, like, if directions are your weakness, this might not be your show.
especially because they make them drive so much because they're around Canada and they got to sell all the Chevys. So they make them drive in almost every leg. This is not a taxi heavy show, I think.
Yeah, they
maybe
don't
when
have,
you go to Toronto or something. But
yeah, Garmin is not your sponsor. We don't have the Garmin assist.
So so we're kind of winding down with the main things that happened. I guess we should talk. I should mention Jesse and Jonathan win the leg. Looking pretty strong. They win a trip, not points. They don't win points that might get them a trip, Jess. According to what John said, they actually won the real trip.
And they won cash to spend on
and $10,000.
I'll take it.
My goodness. Thanks, Expedia. But EB and Blake were also strong. We're going to skip. And then the Rebeccas were fourth. And then we'll talk about the other teams further down. But a lot of strong finishes really from the top, like 8, I would say. They all were really close.
Yep. All right. Well, let's pull up our teams and we can just kind of go through one by one and talk about their moments and about their general performance. So I will go ahead and start here with Jesse and Jonathan, who are our team number 1. Really solid racing. You can tell these guys know what they're doing. They have studied the show. They have watched it. They are, Jonathan in particular is a super fan. You see them getting like the Will and James shot almost of the taking a class, like learning how to dance in order to go on Amazing Race Canada, which, as you know, is a very smart thing, especially with Amazing Race Canada, because they're dancing every other leg. And you can tell that they've really like taken to heart what you have to know how to do to be on this show. And I think it paid off for them this leg already.
Yeah, I had already kind of pegged them as one of the teams to watch even before they finished first this leg, because I mean they have it. It's also interesting because Jesse's kind of the big character, Jonathan's the super fan, but is also a little more low key, which is good. You might not want to have 2 giant characters. Also, they're in their 30s, so they have a little more life experience, and then they're in very good, especially Jesse, physical shape, and they also seem to be a type of team that people seem to really like the other teams. So they might do well, but aren't immediately going to get that. I mean, if they finish first 3 legs in a row, sure. But if they're not going to immediately get pegged as like, oh, we need to take out that team with your U-turn or double pass or whatever else.
Yeah. I mean, it's Jack and Carson energy all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I still don't know how they got there. I don't know how that happened, but I do, because again, there's always there's somebody else that's bigger, but I don't know. They did finish first, and they made it look really easy this week. They were never really in any danger.
Yeah, I think these two, if they can avoid getting hit with some really terrible luck, I think we're going to see them in the finals.
Would not shock me at all.
Yeah. All right. Now, this team did surprise me quite a bit. Evie and Blake, and maybe it's just because they are not dressed for the race in their official race portrait. They are dressed very stylishly, but I have long said, do not go on the Amazing Race in jeans. And I don't know if these are jeans, but whatever pants these are not Amazing Race pants that we are seeing on EB in particular. But then they show up and they're very down to earth, but they're also very, very, very funny. And not in a way that I feel like it's a little bit sticky, but it's not super sticky. Like, you can tell, like, this is just how they are.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where, there's a really fine line when a team says we're going to be first all the time. you have the most recent season, you have people that like, your Jim and Misty or whomever, people that, that's what they mean. That's what they mean. These guys, I know they want to do well, but I think I don't take it like anything really bad about it. I think it's kind of funny. And one of them, I mean, he's a model and the other guy owns a bar and they just seem like they're having fun. I think they'll be good racers, but I think the biggest thing is they just, they're talking about they're going to destroy teams' lives and eliminate them. I think they're just messing around in their videos, which will make them a fun team, I think.
Yeah. Like our weakness is we don't have any weaknesses. Like usually that's the team that's the first ones out. So the fact that they have a little bit to back it up is entertaining. And you can tell that they don't actually mean it, but it was very fun to watch these two. And I think we're going to, I didn't feel like one of them was the big personality and the other one was the other one, No.
Yeah.
That's usually like a lot of Amazing Race teams. You have the big personality and the other one. And so I think the two of them, like really good energy from them. And I'm excited to see more of them. All right. We're here. We are finally here.
Yes.
This is the most wildly erratic performance I've ever seen on a leg one from any team ever. We got to talk about Skyline and Blair because there's so much going on. Again, I'm not even getting to the bags yet. Like without the bag situation, there would still be so much going on with this team.
Superfan Magoo.
We got to start with Superfan Magoo because this is a phenomenon. I believe this is something that is not unknown to people that live in a major sports market. Like we have here in New York, we have the Yankees and the Mets, and we had Cowbell Man for the Mets, and we had Frying Pan Freddy for the Yankees. And it's like a guy who is the fan. He's like, you see him, he's almost like another mascot, super into everything and leading the cheers, making the most noise. And Blair is that for the Edmonton Oilers, which is great. I love the enthusiasm. I love the energy. And them going into this, I'm like, I don't know about these guys. They're older. They're very personality focused. I don't know how they're going to do. And then they euphemistically put do not do well, but then they do really well. And then they finish third. And they're weirdly not fussed when they first realize they don't have their bags. And this is something I think now here is the point where we can start to talk about this situation. So everybody's bags are at the starting line, but they're not at the starting line. They're at the thing after you rappel. And I think this is where I would have gotten tripped up too, because usually, and I've seen a couple of people commenting on the internet that the bags are where they always are when you start the race. And that's not true, because usually the bags are the first thing you run to when the race starts. And here it was like, you got to do 2 tasks and then get your bags. And I think their assumption was, and I think we've seen this play out before, their assumption was that their bags would be given to them at some point. And that is true. I just missed the point. And
oh man,
it's a big screw up. It's not the only time this kind of thing has happened, which we got a lot of questions about this. And it's not, I think it was interesting that it was not a total like game ruiner right there. And we'll get into some of the reasons why here, but it was interesting to me that they didn't really freak out about this the first time they realized they didn't have their bags.
Yeah, it was, because it took them a while to realize it. Like, even there was a point where they were running by teams who had bags, and I kept thinking, they're going to notice that those teams right next to them are carrying bags. And then they finally got, I think it's when they stopped at the canyon, and then it was like, so where'd you get the bags? Where are they? Oh, that moment was so funny. Oh yeah. My gosh. We haven't even talked about Osas and Asosa yet, but Asosa's reaction was just like, I mean, I felt bad for them, but also his reaction was like, he was so amazed. He's like, they're at the stadium. But yeah, she got frustrated. But yeah, I mean, I think might have been in the process of writing. I'm trying to think of who actually wrote it now, but they were upset. But some teams would just have just self-destructed. I mean,
Yeah.
we only got to go back to, and I know that this is a weird thing because this is the team that got thrown together, but Amazing Race, I hate to mention Amazing Race 24, Jess, where Mallory was supposed to get Mark's backpack and he thought she had it and then they didn't. And then similar thing where they realized we don't need it. We can continue. But they went back for it and it wasn't the only reason, ended up getting eliminated. But they didn't even seem to hesitate. Most teams, it would have been like, should we go back? Well, I have something important, my stuff or whatever. Should we go back? Should we not? And it would have gone back and forth forever. And there would have been 3 commercial breaks. And they just seemed to be, they were upset for a minute. And then they were like, all right, I guess we'll see what happens. And I was like, wow, that's a good attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like they're driving away from the stadium and Skylene says, when do you think we'll get our bags? Blair's like, I don't know. Really not fussed about it at all at that point. And I think we need to talk a little bit. We need to get a little bit into the Amazing Race rules. And we have to go deep into Amazing Race history. Like we got to go to the single digit US seasons to talk about like, what do you need to have and what can you get away with not having? And everybody has the fanny pack. Everybody has the amazing fanny pack, and that's where you keep your clues. That's where you keep your money. This is where all of your important documents live inside this fanny pack. And so you've seen it end a lot of games where somebody leaves the fanny pack somewhere. Like there was a team, I think season 13 of the US version, they forget the fanny pack and they're toast. You can lose your backpacks with all your personal items in them, and it doesn't matter that much because what you really need are your travel documents, your money, your clues. And this is why at the end of the race, when Skylene and Blair check in at the mat, John's like, you can keep racing if you have your ID on you, because presumably they're going to need to fly somewhere at some point and you need your ID to fly. So that was really, they had all of the important stuff that you need. They just don't have any comfort items, which they may be able to pick some stuff up along the way. Going back to Dandrew from season 13 of Amazing Race US, they forgot their shoes at a challenge. And it was another case of we thought somebody was going to bring them to us and they didn't. And then they had to go and like spend a ridiculous amount of money in an airport in Kazakhstan to get shoes so that they could run the rest of the race. So things like that, you really don't need. And whatever you have on your person or within sight of your person when you check in on the mat, that you can carry forward with you. But they're not going to have a change of clothes. They're not going to have toothbrushes. They're not going to have deodorant. It's going to be, they can keep racing with the clothes on their backs for as long as they want, but it may be a little bit uncomfortable for them. And I think another thing we have to bring up is non-elimination legs in the early seasons of the US show. When you checked in last on the mat and you didn't get eliminated, you would have to give Phil all of your personal effects and all of your money and then start the race with just the clothes on your backs and whatever money you get at the top of the leg. And there was a point where the team thought they were going to be non-eliminated, so they put all their clothes on their body and had like 5 shirts on when they checked in so that they could carry them forward. And there was another team that thought they might be non-eliminated, but they thought that they should look as ridiculous as possible when they did it, so they like stripped down to nothing. And I don't believe they did get non-eliminated. I think they just got eliminated. But this was a terrible idea and not well executed. So they ended up doing away with it eventually and putting in the speed bump, which is the superior way to handle a non-elimination leg. Because it's also, you don't want to take away everybody's money and then make them beg people in countries that are less well off than the US. That was why they stopped doing that. But the idea of taking away everybody's stuff was an entertaining one for a long time. And this is effectively, it's like they got non-eliminated and checked in third because they've lost all their bags and they can continue on. And well, it'll be interesting to see how that affects them, if it affects them at all, because it turns out they're surprisingly strong racers. Maybe this isn't going to affect them a bit.
Yeah, it's interesting because, yeah, we've seen them do a few tasks. It'll be interesting as they go along what skills they have. But yeah, I mean, I guess they're probably going to stay at hotels, using the Expedia app. So they can get those tiny toothpaste that they give you and the really bad like stuff that you can get from like the front desk. They're going to have a lot of those, I think, Jess. They're going to be stealing soaps and stuff from the hotels and, just anything they can do. But it is going to be a challenge. But I mean, granted, this still, I think if you're going to lose all the clothes and everything, at least you're not flying all over the world.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Amazing Race Canada might be a little easier and there might be, they could scour the sales and some locals, go to Marshall's or
You're not allowed to go to Marshall's anymore. It's off the island.
It's off the island. You can't go to they had that task at Marshall's. But yeah, so, the only other thing I would mention is there was a team in Amazing Race 16, Steve and Allie, who abandoned their backpacks, but it was like 7. They wanted to finish first. They were like, we don't care. We want to finish first. Got eliminated the next leg. So we didn't really see how that played out. And even some of those non-elimination penalties, a lot of those tended to happen later on. I think BJ on Tyler also lost his shoes at one point and some game shoes. So there's been kind of moments like that, but I feel like it never tends to happen in leg 1. That's like the real difference here is like, it's the first leg, but I don't know. We'll see. I think they finished third. I think that's cool. I don't think if they get eliminated, this will be the reason. I'm not entirely convinced they're going to like really, really go far though. I feel like they're fun and they're going to do a little better than I expected. Cause when I look at that team and I see him in face paint, I think first team out. Now that we've seen, and nothing to do with the bags, just based on, it's like the morticians or something. It's like that kind of thing.
I don't think an Amazing Race US team consisting of Cowbell Man and Frying Pan Freddy is going to go super far.
St. Louis Blues have a guy like who holds up this towel, and every time they score, he would run down the steps and wave it, and everybody would count. And I'm like, that guy's there every game, just waiting for them to score, so he can run down and swing this. It's not a towel; it's like a sock, or I don't even know, but that kind of thing. It's the same kind of guy, I mean, not that
every
he's the
team
same.
has that guy.
Yeah, it's especially. I think hockey, especially. Really engenders this because because it's like smaller arenas, indoors, I don't know. It's Canada too, big into hockey, but not to get too off track. But I don't know, because at first I thought they were really fun. They seemed to have a great relationship. They seemed like nice people. I didn't think they would get very far. Now I'll be curious to see because we have seen some teams do well in a first leg and then filter out. But I'm going to be interested to track how like their clothes situation. Are people going to let them have some clothes? Are they going to buy some clothes? Are they, are we just, I don't know. I'm being very distracted by this picture where he's like pointing at us with his fingers and stuff that I keep getting distracted by. But regardless, I think, I don't know. There's some people thought, of course, that they thought of it more like the passports. But again, I think this is a confirmation for sure they're not leaving Canada because if they were, they'd need their passports.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's probably what would be in their amazing fanny pack.
Yeah, they probably have it though. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's put that to bed. We'll probably put a pin in that and come back to it when we get to our listener questions. But let's go to the Rebeccas. Rebecca. The great thing about this team is they look a lot alike. They wear their hair the same way. They are about the same height. They are dressed identically. I don't have to worry about telling which one is Rebecca and which one is Rebecca. They are both Rebecca. They are Rebeccas. They are two individuals, but one identity.
Yeah, they met at an Indigenous fashion show. I know Rebecca W. was a breast cancer survivor, co-founded really interesting, community organization. They both are really pushing to inspire Indigenous youth. They seem like good racers too. I feel like they barely appeared in this episode because they just kind of were in the middle. They were very solid, except for, they got the assists. So they did appear for that, but we don't need to go back into that again. But did a good job. But I don't know. I think they're going to do okay. But I agree. I'm just going to a lot of times being, well, Rebecca took the roadblock and we'll be right. We're not wrong.
Yeah. When Rebecca told Rebecca that she thought Rebecca could do better, it's like the name's starting to lose meaning. And maybe one of them will get a nickname. Like, we had Jeff and Jeff on the last season of Amazing Race.
Pops.
And Pops. We called him Pops. We never called him Jeff again. In fact, I was like, I said something about Jeff and Jeff on a podcast, and he was like, what are you talking about? Like, oh, Pops and Jeff. Yes. So one of them will get an identity similar to that. We will see. All right, moving on. We have our team representing the 90s, apparently. We have Brendan and Sam. I'm happy to see them both back. Like, Brendan and Connor, definitely one of the more memorable teams of recent Amazing Race seasons. We loved those guys. My son even picked them to win, even though they didn't. But they were goofy, they were fun. And, Sam, I think we even said last season, if she was racing with someone other than her father, we might have seen her go a lot further. Now we get that chance. We get to see that happen.
Yeah, I was really trying to find that clip of Brendan and Connor seeing the guy blowing the kazoo, which still is one of my favorite moments from that season. And he's just like, blow that kazoo, blow. And I was like, it's got to be on YouTube. It's got to. Nope, not on there. But yeah, they did make the finish line because it was that weird thing where they finished fourth, but I think all four teams technically made the finals. It was like throwing us off. We're like, when are they John gonna walk from behind this wall? It never happened. Just all four of them. But yeah, I remember Sam, even in the two of them I saw in this leg, kind of likes to run the show in terms, like with her dad. Her dad was like wandering the earth looking around. She's like, Dad, let's go, let's do this. And Brendan's a much better racer than that, but I even think too is kind of like, she's ready. And even though their placement wasn't that high, I still hey, they already did better than Jet and Dave. I mean, come on, the team that they weren't, the other returning team we've had on Amazing Race Canada. So they didn't fail like that. I don't believe the previews next week. I think they're going to be around a while.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have a leg up because they've done it before. Mm-hmm. And, we even say, like, as we're going to get into another team coming up, if you've been on TV before, it helps you on The Amazing Race. So if you've been on this TV show before, it's going to help you even more.
Unless you're Jet and Dave. But caveat, if you have been on TV before and you are taking it seriously. Yeah, you're not like, we don't need a map, we'll just figure it out. It's like, what's happening?
I don't know.
But regardless, yeah, I'm not saying for sure they're going to win. I still feel like win comes down to a lot of factors, but I think they'll be around at least through the midpoint, and it wouldn't shock me if they made it to the end.
Yeah. These outfits, man, I had this outfit when I was 12.
She's 26. Just like
she was not born when I had this outfit.
Basically.
All right. Okay. We got Osos and Isosa. I love these guys so much. This is my early, like, I'm gonna have my heart ripped out of my chest when something happens to them, because and I'm at the point now, like, I have now podcasted about roughly 24 seasons of Amazing Race over the course of my life, and I'm kind of comfortable now just saying that I have a favorite, and I'm going to be transparently rooting for these guys because they have wonderful energy, they are hilarious, and they are solid racers.
Short Kings, come on.
Look, I'm like a full head taller than these guys. I love me a short king. What can I say?
They're great. They're so funny. And I also like they haven't brought it up yet, but they have the immigrant story where their father, they immigrated from Nigeria in 2010. And I'm sure that'll come up down the road, though I'll get nervous if it does, because that could mean bad for them. But I just like their energy. They're real chill. and funny, and they're not trying. Like they're just fun. This Amazing Race Canada tends to do a very good job of having people like that are just seem to be happy to be there, that are fun personalities. But like I said, they're not at 11. They're like 7, 8. But they're just, I'm like, I like those guys. It takes like they're on the screen for like a minute at the starting line. And I'm like, yep, like those guys. And it only increased, like I mentioned earlier, with his response to the bags, which was not like laughing at them, was more like just like, oh boy, that really stinks for you. I don't know, in like a fun way, not in a, the team that won't be named. If somebody told him that, would have just been like, yeah, that's why you're the worst or whatever. No, it was fun. It was cool. So I really like these guys.
Yeah, I think they're early favorites for me. I want to see them go very far. It's another Colin and Matt situation for me. It's like I'm not going to pretend that I'm unbiased anymore, because it's not what you're here for. You're not here for me to give you a neutral take on everything that happened. I got favorites. All right, let's go to our token Big Brother team of the season, because apparently this is a thing we do every season now. We have Ika and Dimitri, and Dan, I understand you did a little bit of recon to get a little bit of sense of how we think these two are going to play the Amazing Race.
Yeah, I have barely watched any Big Brother Canada, but I watched a clip of her iconic moment. I'll get to it in a minute, but that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And I'm like, is the show always like this? Because this is insane. Everyone's so over the top. But yes, so Ika, she played Big Brother Canada season 2. Thank you to Mike Bloom for this assistance. Mike Bloom, I was hoping he'd give me some info, and he wrote me a very long essay, and I really appreciate it. Mike, you're awesome. You responded within like 5 minutes with all this info. But she played Big Brother 2, Big Brother Canada season 2, excuse me. Let me be clear. And had this moment where, oh my gosh, you need to look this up, where she was given the opportunity. I don't mean to go into, but was given the opportunity to either shred everyone's family letters or shred a check for $5,000. So if she shredded the family letters, she got $5,000. If she shredded the check, everyone got their letters. And she did not know this, but everyone got to watch the video of her deciding what to do, where she talked badly about all of them because they had just like flipped the game on her and she was on the outs. That clip is like 10, 12 minutes, and all of them crying and her just shredding. And you got to guess what happened. She did not. She did not give out the family letters. But so that kind of made her iconic. She got a limit, but she came back for another season 5. And that's where she met Dimitri. It was the half newbie. It was like the Survivor fans versus favorites sort of idea. Half newbies, half fraternities. Hate that setup, but it worked out where they both kind of connected, had a showmance, and then both kind of took over the game. And he apparently was really good at challenges, and they did not win. But the funny one last thing, I could go through a lot more. There's a lot more. You can find this information. They're in the same season as that Kevin Martin was the winner of that season.
Oh, really?
5. They were directly against each other, where they were trying to get him out. He kept winning safety, and then he ultimately, I apologize if I'm spoiling it for anyone, led to their demise. So direct connection there. But yeah, now they're married. So this was not just a showmance. It was obviously a real romance. Apparently he is very physically fit. And then she's more kind of the big character. She became a big character, worked for ET Canada for a while. And it's kind of an iconic Big Brother Canada. This isn't like someone that people kind of know. I think she's very well known.
I mean, I had heard of her going into this, and I've watched even less Big Brother Canada than you have, Dan.
It's 15 minutes. I think I watched a little bit of the team a few seasons ago. Not Kevin. I saw him on the Traders, but that other team that the dad and son, where the son was on Big Brother.
Oh, right. So, yes. Yeah. That was the COVID season. Yes. Yeah. So I think, again, it was always an advantage to have been on television before, and to have spent a lot of time with a camera on you with your partner is even better. So, one of you being on a show and the other person either not having been on television or having been on television separately, it's not as good as if you guys met on television and formed a relationship on television, because you're not worried at all about the cameras and you are a little bit more comfortable with how you're going to be portrayed. Because I feel like this is just me. I think if I was on Amazing Race, I would be constantly worried. It would get in my way of doing well on the show. The concern that I might do something catastrophically stupid and become viral in a less desirable way than shredding everybody's letters. But she's already been there. She's already done that.
She knew what she was doing. You're watching
Yeah.
this and like she played it up to the fullest. Like, it was dramatic, I will say.
Yeah. And so we know already that these people are good television. So we are going to naturally be predisposed to wanting them to do well. And I think they will do well. I think they had a couple of moments this leg where they were out in front and they were doing exceedingly well. They had some very smart strategy moves. I think, like, as we mentioned earlier, going back and looking at the watch to get the cadence of how much a second was, that clearly helped them out quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think at first they seemed a little, actually this is very similar to, they're not the same, but I remember when Rob and Amber started The Amazing Race, and just the beginning we're just kind of lost. Like, they couldn't find the airport. They kind of had that with the Clue at the beginning, where they just seemed kind of like, wait, this moves really fast. We're used to just sitting in a house. What, and it took them a little bit, but I feel like, because you sometimes see teams that, if the most danger they will be in is these first few legs, because they just are adjusting to a different type of show. But I think if they kind of get they already during this leg seem to get more comfortable. And especially because she was like, this isn't what I like. I just like to chill. And he's like, yeah, bring on the athletic stuff. It's really going to kind of depend on how much he's able to use that, because the Amazing Race Canada doesn't always do as many super physical things. So I don't know. I started out thinking, oh, this might be a disaster. And by the end think, they might do okay. I'm not inclined to say they're going to make the end, but I think they'll do okay.
Yeah, I think we're going to see them. I think they'll do at least as well as Kevin and Gerline did.
Yeah, and probably won't be crying wanting to quit in episode 2. Or whatever.
And probably will still be together by this time next year.
What are you saying?
I don't know, man. I'm not saying The Amazing Race was responsible for anything. Let's just get that out of the way. All right, here we go. Lacey and Celia. We got short queens and short kings this season. They're so small. And I really enjoyed their personality, their energy level. I can't believe we are 11 seasons in. We have not gotten any PEI representation, so this is good as well.
Yeah, I think they're great. I think they're fun, and they're it's great, like you said, to have a team from PEI, but also, not just because they're small, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is the type of team that when we do drafts, I always draft way too high. But I think they will do all right. And I think, like we saw with the dancing, they have some skills that could help them. And seem like interesting people and real down to earth. And we got some big characters this season, and they seem like they're going to hang out and kind of look at them kind of like, you guys are crazy, but in a fun way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, in a fun way. And, we saw that they're already... Amazing Race Canada loves them some dance challenges, and we see very clearly that they are going to be very good at those. So I think we're going to see a decent performance. I don't know if I would pick them to win, but I think they're going to be good.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention Celia too is really outspoken about mental health. Based on experience with their dad. I was looking at her Instagram, and there's a lot about that. I'm sure this will come up on the show. This is not something that we're revealing. But so I think there's a lot more to the story there. We're here. They kind of are just, again, might get a little nervous, but I think it's good. It might be some good conversations happening from it, though. Obviously I'll get nervous. They're going to get eliminated, but they have a history, and I know that she's really an advocate. So that's good too. Yeah.
And I love it when you can use your presence on the show as a platform to do some good in the world. And I think that will be very powerful. I expect we will get the more detailed version of it the week that they get eliminated, because that's how the personal story bump works.
That's why I get nervous. Yeah. Same with the immigrant story about the others. No.
You start showing a picture of somebody as a baby. Oh, they're done. They're toast. Either that or they're going to win. All right. So we're going to move on to Louis and Marie. I did not know this was mother and son until I watched the episode. Because like she looks so good. Like she's not in her 50s. I thought that I legitimately thought they were siblings or a married couple or something because they look like they're the same age. So props to Marie. Like whatever is in the drinking water in Quebec, it's working for her.
Yeah, 26 years apart. I mean, she's the first grandma in the Amazing Race, which is Canada, which is hard to.
That's shocking.
That surprised me, but that's what she said. And then yeah, he's a proud girl's dad, but also at some point they were on Family Feud in Canada, which actually
does Canada have its own Family Feud?
I don't know. Maybe Michelle and Aditi also were on Family Feud. Family Feud Canada, yes.
Are we just recruiting off of Family Feud now? Is that what's happening?
They didn't really mention it, or it didn't come up. Like Michelle and Aditi's was in their bio, but I looked on Instagram with my sleuthing, and there's a picture of the two of them on Family Feud. So I'm like, did they just go one day and grab a few teams? But
how sad is that if you're one of the 3 people on your Family Feud team that doesn't get to be on Amazing Race?
So I don't know any more than that, but there's a picture of them on Family Feud on Instagram. So I assume, but yeah, she's so fit. 58. I mean, says she's in the best shape of her life, and I totally believe it. Like you said, got tripped up by the dance task, but he's got. Here's my question though, Jess. I know we're getting long on this with time, but if he had done the dancing, would he have had to have worn a different cowboy hat, or could he have kept the one he had, or would he have to wear 2 hats?
Would he have to wear a hat on top of his hat?
Yeah, that was the big question that I was asking my daughter. I was like, and we were talking about we thought he would just wear the same hat, but
yeah, that's a really good question, Dan. Now I'm also, did we ever see him take the hat off? Like maybe he can't take it off.
It's like those like action figures that are toys where the hat's just part of their head. It's like that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. Like, and in that case, you probably would have to put the other hat because you do have to kind of take it off and move it around a little bit. So,
hard-hitting questions we're asking here.
This is what the people are here for, Dan. We have to give them what they want.
Well, hopefully we'll learn. If we see him without the hat on, that'll be a big thing to mention.
Well, he probably will have to. We probably had to take it off to rappel. Like anything you have to jump off of something. I didn't even check, but when you have to jump off of something or do something that requires a helmet, he definitely has to take off the hat because they probably don't have a helmet that fits over the hat.
Oh, speaking of that, did you hear the Cowboys Jet and Cord theme several times during this episode, or was that just me? I was like, no, don't start. It wasn't for Louis though. It was just because they were line dancing. So I think we're not going to get it every episode now.
Yeah. Don't bring that. Don't bring that bad energy in here.
They're lassoing next week though. So get ready. Get ready for more.
We're in Alberta. When in Alberta, you got to do like the Albertans do. I'm very excited. Later in the summer, I'm going to be in Alberta for a long weekend. It's becoming our annual family tradition to go up to Lethbridge for Whoop Up Days and to Tabor for Cornfest. So Amazing Race Canada needs to get in on Cornfest, by the way. Cornfest is lit. So that's what I'll be doing later on in the summer. Anyway, let's go to our next team. We have Grace and Joe. Very, very not good at math, Grace and Joe. Some of the wildest counting we saw this episode. But they did manage to get out of it, to come back from behind and not get eliminated, but they were a full 30 seconds off of when we saw them count. So that had to be frustrating, but they did come back from it. And also not the wildest mishap that I've ever seen a team of siblings named Grace and Joe do on an iteration of the Amazing Race, because back in Amazing Race Australia Season 2, which we all hold up as the gold standard of Amazing Race seasons, we had a team called Grace and Joseph who went to the wrong province of China, to the wrong section of the Great Wall of China, like four full hours out of the way. And they were in Inner Mongolia, which is part of China. It is not part of Mongolia, but it was the closest we've ever come to having an Amazing Race team go to the wrong country. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, we've had a Grace and Joe before. but so they have big shoes to fill here.
Yeah, well, that I had forgotten about that. Yeah, so they did great this episode, But the thing about it is they actually, beyond not being able to count, we're doing fine. They were in the top half for most of the leg, and I mean, it's really hard to gauge. I know that she's, she's comfortable in front of the camera, has been in movies, has directed films, like I mentioned in The Revenant and in others, and he says he doesn't like to be in the spotlight. Not sure you want to go on a reality show in Canada for that, but that's not important. But I think she is the like person that they wanted to have on the team. He seems more, when I mentioned like the dry, I'm not sure he's got the humor yet, but he seems like the most low-key person in this entire cast. He's very just like down to earth, but I'm not giving up on them. I think this might have been just a hiccup.
Yeah, I think this is to the point of like, have you both been on camera, or has only one of you been on camera? This could be problematic, but I think they had one slip up. They didn't have multiple slip ups, and they didn't have a slip up that was so big you have to take a step back and look at it. So yeah, they could do okay. I think we'll have to wait and see.
All right. Have we covered everyone?
No, we got about the cousins.
Oh, I forgot about
because I forgot about the team that got eliminated. No, we do have to talk about the team.
They're the South Asian sensations.
Yeah, they had so much energy, and I appreciate the big feelings, and I think that if we were drafting, I think they would have been drafted last. I think neither one of us would have put them on our team, like just based on the fact that they came in at 11, and you knew it was going to be like, whether something was good or something was bad, they were going to be reacting big. And yeah, I feel bad that they went out the way they did. Like that was, but also directionally challenged is not the ideal weakness to have on The Amazing Race.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that they're, cousin chaos and everything, and they had all this stuff like, we're going to do everything. We're going to steal people's maps. And I'm like, how does that work? I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But we're going to, they were really, they seem like personality-wise, they were pumped. But yeah, I think they looked a little, I mean, it's, again, this is a little results-based. If they had finished like 8th, I went, let's say this. But the edit really made sure to make it, I mean, to show the moments when they were struggling. We could really, that's what I mentioned. You could kind of see early on, it seemed like they were, even though they got ahead, I was like, I don't know. I think they were really fun. And, they also got to do this season's Ask God and Jesus to help them moments a lot, but no comments on that at all. I'm just saying that happened this, a few times, which is always fun. But yeah, it's too bad they're gone, because I always like to see more of teams, but I think they were probably the lowest end team.
Yeah. Yeah, they did bring some kind of like, we're hoping to see like another Kishori and Karishma situation, because we've got South Asian cousins where one is tall and one is short. And they have a lot of personality and big energy, but they came up a little bit short in a couple of key areas. So yeah, they were a fun team for as much time as we got them, but we will press on. We've got more teams. Dan, we've covered a lot of the questions that our listeners had for us this week. So I wanted to ask a couple of questions off of here that are kind of fun. We covered this a little bit, but I want to get your take on what is the ideal scenario here. Laura Cherry asked us on Facebook, what word do you both use when counting seconds? Mississippi, 1,000, steamboat. Steamboat, that seems short.
I've never heard steamboat before. Like I said, Mississippi is one we use, but I'm going back to like grade school. I don't know. I haven't really had the need to count seconds. I normally just kind of go 1, 2, 3, just like that. Mm-hmm. But I think probably of the choices she gave, I would use 1,000, I think.
Yeah.
But I feel like Mississippi, I would count too slowly, maybe. I don't know. Even though it's about the same number of letters.
I'm surprised that they use Mississippi in Canada. Like, shouldn't they be using like 1 Ontario, 2 Ontario?
Something
1
like that.
Saskatchewan, 2 Saskatchewan?
I don't know what the biggest river that they could use up there, though. I don't know if Mississippi, I assume, is based on the river, not on the state, but that was always the thing here because St. Louis is on the Mississippi River. I didn't even realize it was something that was said all over the country. I just thought it was, but yeah, I don't know. I think the best thing is you got whatever you're doing, you just got to figure out the cadence if it's Mississippi or 1000 or Steamboat, I guess. But the main thing is, you saw most of the teams were pretty close. When they missed, it was like, oh, they were off by 8 or 10 or 6 or whatever. It was really just one team that was really off. So it seems easy, but I'm guessing a lot of teams took 6, 7, 11 tries for Grayson Joe. I think it would take longer than I thought. And going back up that mountain probably took a long time.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of having to reset that whole task, and then there's only one of those things, so you got to wait for everybody else who's in front of you to go. It could be very frustrating. I could see.
Okay, so do you mention something else you want to ask, or I could pull up something
if
here?
You've got something you want to pull up, feel free.
Well, I'm curious, we didn't really dig into this with the backpacks, but what do you think? Owen Craig asked this on Blue Sky, where you can ask questions. What are they going to miss most from their backpack? What do you think?
It's a good question. I think of things that you can't immediately replace for relatively cheap, I think clean socks is going to be a big one.
Yeah, that's especially if they get wet.
Oh, yeah, their race is cooked if their socks get wet.
Yeah, I think though you probably could find socks for pretty cheap at not at Marshall's, TJ Maxx. I don't know, somewhere else cheap. At the local 7-Eleven, I don't know, or where do they go in Canada? What was, Petro Canada? They sell socks. I don't know, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what else. I'm trying to think of what else you really would miss, because you can get like toiletries probably. It's probably like the basics, I would think.
Yeah. I think toiletries, like you can probably get wherever hotel you're staying in, they'll probably give you a toothbrush. So it would be in a vacuum where you can't get that stuff. I would say toothbrush is probably going to be the most upsetting, but I think they're going to miss socks. They're going to miss underwear. I think wearing the same shirt all the time, even though you can like wash it out and hang it up overnight, it's going to start to get on their nerves. But I'm going to be curious to see if they get to replace any of that stuff or what happens with them.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm trying to look and see, because a lot of the questions are just like, what the heck was that? What was up with the bags? I think we kind of covered most of those kind of questions. Let me see. Yeah, we talked about the arrows. Yeah, I think. What do you think? Do you think there's anything else we need to cover?
I did want to give a shout out. Andrew Butts on Facebook asked, I know on Justin's podcast, he mentions you should only use one backpack. This is Justin of season 27 has a great podcast that we enjoy, a little bit hotter takes than we typically trade in, but he mentions you should use only one backpack, and this is one of his hard and fast rules. Could using none be better?
No. I mean, in one sense, yes. Like if you're just saying, I need to win one leg, because you see people do this when they check their bags and finales and stuff. One leg, of course, none is better. Maybe 2 legs, none is better. But if you're talking for a full race, I think you're going to feel it at some point. I mean, I know we don't see killer fatigue as roughly all the time on Amazing Race Canada, especially the early seasons we did. If you're doing US, I mean, come on. Put me on one long flight and I'm like, okay, I need to change clothes. So, but for a leg or 2, sure.
Yeah. All right. I think that takes me to the end of all of the things I wanted to discuss for this week's episode, Dan. But is there anything else you want to hit on before we start to bid everybody fond farewell?
Do you want to make winner picks? Do you want to do that?
Yes, let's do winner picks. I don't think we need to do a full draft at this point, but winner picks could be good.
Okay. Mine's going to be so boring. I'm just going to tell you if you want me to go first, but
go ahead.
I'm afraid we're going to have the same pick. And here's the thing. I did this 2 seasons ago with Ty and Kat, and I had picked them as my winners before they won the first leg. And I had done the same thing with Jesse and Jonathan before they won the first leg.
Yeah.
It does not have to do. But if for some reason they had come out and just been terrible, I would have been like, for this podcast, I would have said no. But all they did was make me think, yep, that was right. Yep, that's the right answer. And also, we haven't really had, for a while, Amazing Race Canada had this stretch where it was just like dudes winning, like for a long time. But not really been the case as much recently. And I'm not saying gender doesn't really matter with this, but I'm just saying this type of team for a while, we would have just, but I feel like they've got the skills, the fandom. Some of the teams might not be as know much race, but also, I don't know. They just have that vibe. Sometimes teams just have a vibe that they're going to do well. Who knows if I'll be right, but I could see them going really far. So that they're the team that jumped off for me as a winner more than any other team.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with you on that, Dan. I think of all the teams, I think that's the only one I see that really has winner energy. And maybe it's also because we see a very similar team winning the last season of US, but I like these guys. They're bringing the know-how, they're bringing the energy, they're bringing skill set. Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. And unless you're gonna make me pick another winner pick, I'm just gonna co-sign yours.
Yeah, I mean, there's other contenders, but I probably list like 6 teams. So it's like half the teams or whatever. And the team that wins will be like, you didn't mention me. It's like, but yeah, they jumped out at me the most, but it also could be they got when you win a leg, you get a really positive edit. Next week, it could change, but that's what I'm thinking right now.
Yep. I like it. It's a good pick. But really, they're all winners in my book. All of you. Yeah.
And not the store winners. They're all winners. No. Like, they're all great. Even if a team totally does terrible and goes out next, I mean, just being on the show is awesome. I mean, it's Canada's favorite summertime adventure, and we get to talk about it, and I'm pumped about it.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing I get to do all year, is I get to pretend I'm Canadian, and I feel better for an hour and a half of my life every week. So Dan, I know you and I are pretty focused up right now, but is there anything else you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about that you've been up to?
No, not really. This is actually the first time that I have podcasted about anything since January. I did used to podcast about theme parks on the Tomorrow Society podcast. Those 250 episodes are out there. I promise I won't mention them every week, but I figure I'd mention it now. If you like theme parks, there's a lot of cool interviews, but really just doing this, enjoying the summer, hanging out with the family, and trying not to overheat. It's been a good time.
Yeah. I mean, kind of same here. I've got one project that the world can see, and then I'm spending all the rest of my time doing my day job, hanging out with my fam, and trying to sell a novel out there. So it's tough. So yeah, I'm happy to be here podcasting with you again, Dan. And anybody that wants to give us feedback, we have a Facebook group that is for all things RHAP Amazing Race. It is called Amazing Race on RHAP. You can search for it and make sure you answer the questions when you apply to be in it, or I'll probably just reject you because I don't know that you're not a bot. So do that. You can also go to robswebsite.com/TAR group, and that will redirect you to the Facebook group to apply. And of course, we're on the social media. We're on different social media from where we used to be, but we're both on Blue Sky. You can find Dan at the Dan Heaton, and I am at Jess Liese over there. And I'm on the Instagram at Haymaker Hattie. So any place you want to come and hang out with us virtually and give us your thoughts on Amazing Race Canada, we're always happy to hear from you. So with that, I want to thank Dan one more time for jumping on here again and podcasting with me for the 10th year in a row or so. Thanks to everybody behind the scenes over at RHAP for continuing to let us do this. And thanks to all of you, the listeners. And we will see you next week.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.